Hello, is this Bret?
It is.
Hi, it's Nick from Reverb and Rolling Stone in Australia. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. I know that some of your books in the past have taken many years to complete, and some have been more grueling than others. How did the writing of Imperial Bedrooms compare to your past books?
Just as grueling.
Was it?
I've got to find a way to make it less grueling, I think.
Yeah.
It took a long time because I was working on a lot of other projects. I was thinking about the book for a long time, too. I first started thinking about the book when I was completing Lunar Park, or when I was in the middle of Lunar Park. I reread all of my other books before working on that. And the only question that came out of the reading of those books was, where is Clay now, and what is he doing? And it just wouldn't leave me. And I thought about it for around a year and a half, thinking about, well, what kind of book is this going to be? Is it really worth doing this book? People will see it as a sequel. I don't really see it as a sequel. I see it as just like, finding out where Clay is now, which I guess is a sequel. But I didn't approach it as a sequel. And I was, reading a lot of Raymond Chandler, and I had moved back to Los Angeles, and all of these things, and I was not having a good time of it either, and all of these things kind of started to come together. And then I started making an outline, and then during the 3 years that I was fooling around with it, because it's kind of sat off to the side while I was writing various film projects and TV projects, and I would work on it, here and there, but I had an outline. I was working off an outline, but it was, and I think that's why it took so long. I know, it's a very short book. You would think it would have taken a lot less longer to complete, but it wasn't as if I was working on it every day. I'd work on like a section maybe, for a couple of weeks, but again, it would be just, it would be in conjunction with other things.
Yeah.
So that's why it took so long, and it was just grueling because I think the period I was in at that time was kind of grueling, and I was just kind of adjusting to life back in Los Angeles, and I don't know, it's just how I work. I just don't push out a book as often as I would like to.
Yeah. Is it sort of do you treat it as a sort of a 9-to-5 job in a way? Or do you have that ability to sit down and just work and then kind of walk away, or do you need to have these bursts of inspiration?
Well, I think writing a novel is an emotional process, and I think you write a novel because you're feeling certain things, and you want to figure out why you're feeling them, and you want, I think, answers to questions you might have about your particular existence. That sounds rather grand, but it's not. And so, you kind of can't help wanting to write the novel, and you do live with it during the duration of that process. From the moment the idea comes to you, and you think it through, and then you're working on it, and then you're rewriting it, and then you have to edit the galleys, or you're working with an editor, and then all the way up to publication. So you're kind of living with this book, and it's a very emotional thing. So on a technical level, I like to work between certain hours during the day, but that doesn't mean that when I walk away and it's time for cocktails and dinner that I'm not still thinking about the novel. You do live with it the entire time. I don't work on it, at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about it during that whole time.
Yeah. Obviously, a film adaptation of Less Than Zero came out after the release of the book, which was incredibly different. Was part of the motivation for making the sequel almost a way to kind of reclaim the characters from any legacy that film might have created for them?
No. It really came from the things that I said before. It really came from the fact that I was haunted by where Clay was now.
Yeah.
I wanted to just explore that. Then I of course I had to take the movie into that had to be a concern because Julian lives in the book, and I wanted him to be a part of this book. So on a certain technical level, I had to figure out how to deal with that because a lot of people have seen the movie, and I think there might be people who've seen the movie who haven't read Less Than Zero and don't understand that, Julian lived.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I never felt that the characters were really claimed by the movie.
Yeah.
Just like I don't feel like Robert Redford and Mia Farrow claimed The Great Gatsby or whatever. That there the many adaptations of Anna Karenina or Madame Bovary or whatever. I don't think those really claim the book. But then on a certain level, there are some books where I might feel differently. Yeah, I don't know, but I was not concerned about that. I didn't feel that was something I needed to be worried about.
Yeah.
But I understand where that question comes from.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in Less Than Zero, Clay's obviously a very adrift character, but in so many of the situations he's placed in, he draws a moral line. And I suppose of all your protagonists, he's one of the few that seems to escape the end of the book with some sense of morality. What was behind the decision to sort of make him fall in this book? Because it is a very different Clay, obviously, to the one in Less Than Zero.
Really, I don't know. I see. I was rereading Less Than Zero many times while I was working on Imperial Bedrooms. It seemed more and more logical that this is where he would end up. Now you have to take into account that where I was also at the time of writing Imperial Bedrooms merged with the book, and of course I'm not saying that I like to beat up women. My initial foray into living in Los Angeles and working, very closely with projects in the film industry, helped inform this book, let's say, to a degree.
Yeah.
And it was a fairly difficult, stressful time that did start to affect the way this book was going to land, and how it was going to play itself out. And, I guess a lot of it had to do with my mood, but I also, while I was rereading Less Than Zero and outlining Imperial Bedrooms, this seemed to me at least to the author of the works, to be the logical end point, at least for now, of where Clay would be. But that's just me, that's just me looking at the book that I wrote 25 years ago and this book that I was working on for the last, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, again, it's an emotional thing. I did not make a conscious decision to go there. It was an emotional, it was a feeling like, oh, I think this is where he is. This is where I feel he might be. And it just started to, in a way, unfold itself. With kind of trying to contain it a little bit as the technician, as the writer of the novel. But really, once I get an idea for a novel and I realize who the narrator is going to be and what the situation is and where he is at this point in his life, in a lot of ways it just starts to flow outward, and I'm just like watching it flow outward, and then I'm just trying to be a technician with it and try to control it and contain it, and so that's, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, one of the lingering moments in Less Than Zero was the screening of the snuff movie, and you reference it in the beginning of this book.
Well, not only the beginning, but at the end, there are a couple of snuff movies that are being shown.
Yeah.
It becomes sort of a motif. It's mentioned in the first paragraph, but then it is, the movie ends with a big snuff film in a way. So yes, that was something that I was thinking about a lot as well.
I mean, I suppose, in terms of a device, how do you see the snuff films in the second book? What role do they play? I mean, obviously, in the first book, it was incredibly shocking. In this book, perhaps less shocking because there's other sort of moments of evil, I suppose, that are equally shocking.
Well, everyone's making movies. Everyone wants to make movies.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I don't know. I mean, again, that's a question that I think might be better suited to someone writing a paper on Imperial Bedrooms rather than from where I felt it was, why I felt those things needed to be there. I don't know. Again, it felt right, and it felt like that was, you're making creative decisions. Again, come from an emotional place, and I don't necessarily think they come from a logical place. I think a lot of what a novel is you tapping into your unconscious in a way, and it's kind of like a dream. Yeah, there is the technician again who comes in and orders the material, but the imagery, the story, it's not. I don't think it comes from a particularly logical place. I think it comes from an emotional place, and I think it comes from how you're feeling and where you are at that point in your life, and it colors the story. But I don't know, snuff movies, I don't know. They can mean a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, in the opening sort of section of this book, you sort of allude to the author of Less Than Zero in a sort of self-referential sort of way. And in your previous books, you've done that. And it seems that almost creating a kind of a mythology just through the crossing of characters in the different books, and then the title character in Luna Park being yourself. What aspect of sort of creating that world and blurring the lines of reality do you sort of find the most interesting as a writer?
I don't know. Obviously, I do find that interesting because I do it. What do I find most interesting about it? Well, again, to be honest, I will be answering a question that I never think about. So I feel like I'm almost having. Not that you're doing this, but I put myself in this position where, that's an interesting question. I've never thought about it. I feel like I'm in a classroom and it's an oral exam and I didn't do my homework. Now I have to answer this. And so hopefully I'm going to make up an answer that means something, but I really don't think it will.
Yeah.
What do I find most interesting about that? Again, I don't know. I have never thought about that before. I guess what I find most interesting is that I guess in a way it allows me, it opens the door a little wider.
Yeah.
In terms of the things that you can do. And I don't know, I guess in a way it allows you to take more risks with the material. I guess you can push it a little further than you might have otherwise if you didn't open that door and you just played it completely straight.
Yeah.
I don't know. The strange thing is that I tend to. I want to. Well, it's not even a matter of wanting to. I just tend to give the novels, when I'm working on the outline, over to the narrator. And so the outline, which I work on for a long time, just kind of flows from wherever that person is, and wherever that narrator is from, and what he's interested in, and what's going on in his life, and what he wants to talk about or offer the reader, which is me. The reader is me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's something that I've been doing the last 3 books, playing with that. Well, actually, more specifically, the last 2. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to do it again.